Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we've got a special guest, and that is Nodar, who's one of the founders of a cool little project called DefiZaps, and they're really at the middle of this DeFi ecosystem, pulling together all the best parts, and they've created a really interesting project that we're going to dive into how it all works. So thanks for joining me from the other side of the world, Nodar.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
To start off with, I guess give us the rundown of your background, how you got into crypto, and then the focus on Ethereum. And the last 12 months, DeFi has just really exploded, which must be great to see.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I mean, the way I got into crypto, I kept hearing about crypto from some of my friends. Some of my friends that actually got burned during the Mt. Gox thing. So, I never really got into exactly like how everything works up until I saw randomly a mining video on Ethereum in early 2017. And it kind of hit me right away as a next level to the double entry accounting system. So I myself have a pretty strong accounting background, and we are still using at the core the double entry accounting system since like the 15th century. And to me, proof of work and consensus mechanism was exactly like the next level of that, which will enable a lot greater things, just like with double entry accounting enabled in the 15th century.
Yep. And what is DeFi Zaps in a nutshell for people at home? What is it enabling? And we'll get into the future of what it's going to allow for as well. But yeah, how would you just summarize it for people?
Yeah, I mean it's a way to get instant access to some interesting opportunities in DeFi space. So right now, if you want to, I guess get access to some of the savings rates or add liquidity, become a market maker on like something like Uniswap. There's a couple of steps involved in the process and a couple of kind of hurdles for end users. So DeFi Zap allows you to get instant access. We kind of create these Venmo-like experiences where we even have a ENS name for each Zap. So you don't even need to kind of go on our website to use them. You could directly from your wallet send something to like doublebull.defizap.eth, and you will, with your proceeds, place a 2x position on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you'll open up both of those positions and they'll come back right back to your wallet as tokenized positions. So we're not never holding anyone's proceeds. We're just providing these gateways into DeFi, easy connectors into DeFi.
Yeah, that's probably the right way to explain it, isn't it? The easy connectors. And I'll just take people over to the website just quickly and show them. But basically, it's almost like a investing bot or something where it's telling you, well, what are you trying to do here? Do you prefer fixed income? I'm comfortable with some risks. How advanced of a user are you? So it's just allowing people to choose, do you want to take a speculative long position on Ethereum? Are you more here for that DAI savings rate? Do you want to make money by lending liquidity to one of these exchanges? And it builds these customized tokens, is the easiest way you can think of it. And you can create long Bitcoin, short Ethereum if you believe that that's happening. You can, yeah, really customize whatever you think the outcome is going to be. And it's building a financial product that's an Ethereum ERC20 token, and it comes straight back to your wallet. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And to keep in mind, these tokens are minted directly from the underlying DeFi protocols. So, for example, like one of our like really popular Zaps have been adding liquidity on Uniswap pools. So basically, what happens is, in order to add liquidity to a Uniswap pool, you need to have both an ERC20 token and an equivalent worth of it in Ethereum. So you need to come in both Ethereum and an ERC20 token for the pair. So what we do is you could just come in with one token. For now, it's just ETH. So when you deposit ETH, we do the split in the background for you. And then when you add liquidity on Uniswap Exchange just yourself, you get back these liquidity tracking tokens, which track your liquidity that you provided plus the fees that you now generated, by providing liquidity from all the trading that goes on now on that pair. So when you use DeFi Zap, you get back the same exact tokens that you would if you were to manually interact with Uniswap. So that's like important thing to keep in mind.
And how many clicks is it taking for someone to do this manually, or maybe not just Uniswap? What are some of the other examples where it is a bit of a tedious process for someone that's a beginner to run through, and now you've got that down to a couple of clicks?
Well, yeah, it's not only about clicks, right? So, like, to tell you about clicks, it's like so at least we save like 3 clicks, but it's not even about clicks. It's about the transactions that happen in between. So, for example, if you want to, if you have just ETH and you want to, split it up in half on the Uniswap exchange, at first you need to unlock the token for trading. So that's one transaction. You have to wait for it to get confirmed on chain. Then another transaction is you actually trading that token for your ether for that, yeah, for that 50% of the other token. And then finally a third transaction is you actually adding liquidity and getting minting those liquidity tracking tokens. So now you waited for 3 transactions to settle on chain, while with DeFi Zap it's the same thing, but it's one transaction bundled into one block. So yeah.
And that can also, I guess, eat into your yield. If the network's busy and you've paid 20 cents for 3 transactions out of $100, 60 cents. No, that's yeah, 0.6% when you might be trying to earn 5 or 6% as an annual yield. That's 10% of that yield that you're trying to get. So anything we can do to get that down is really attractive as well, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. So it's nice to keep also track in terms of, if you think about it, you come in with one token and now we just release like on Zaps, so you come out with one token. So you get to a very accurate way to track your ROI throughout your investment period.
And what are some of the yields that are attracting people at the moment? Is it the arbitrage opportunities, or is it still just getting this basic interest in the stablecoin world that's very attractive for most people?
Well, yeah, for now, yeah, it's definitely throughout this space. I would say it's definitely the lending opportunities that are coming, like really popular right now. But I think a lot of people are realizing the power of the automated market making and kind of like the power that this provides, providing liquidity on Uniswap provides. So you just have to make a couple of, obviously estimates, and then if it's worthwhile, for you to come into a pool, it's basically you're generating trading fees. It's like being like part Binance owner. It's like, how Binance generates fees every time you trade.
Yeah.
So it's like imagine being that, but just like completely decentralized. So everyone who provides liquidity is actually getting the fees from all the trading that goes on that exchange.
And so the main integration for you guys is Uniswap, but do you have any thoughts around Kyber and 0x and other opportunities that are coming up? Are you looking to plug into all of those? Do you think they're going to have some exciting opportunities going forward as well?
Yeah, we're definitely watching the space and looking some of the apps we use, the protocols you've mentioned. So for some of the splits, we do it using Kyber. So on Kyber, you can't really, I guess, provide liquidity in the same way that you do on Uniswap. It's a completely different type of an exchange. So there's different opportunities in different places. So it's all about optimizing yield, right? So really, we're creating this floor for people to easily be able to do that, and perhaps create something on top that's pretty cool in terms of yield aggregation and stuff like that.
And for beginners at home that are sitting there, they're kind of starting to understand these concepts. They've just got some Ethereum in their wallet. What's the very basic description or rundown of what they're doing if they're contributing that liquidity to Uniswap, for example, to earn the rewards? What is the token? Is it getting split into whatever needs liquidity on the background, or they still have to choose what token they want to add liquidity to Uniswap for? Or
Oh yeah, you absolutely have to take a look at what goes on right now in terms of the liquidity pools that are on Uniswap currently and what kind of activity is there. So it all depends on the volume and the size of the liquidity pool. So as you could tell, like the more liquidity you add, the bigger portion of those fees you'll be generating. Because Uniswap, they charge 0.3% for every trade. So you see the volume that's like daily or 7 days. So if you're thinking that that's the volume that's going to continue on that exchange, on that pair, whether it's like Maker ETH pair or DAI ETH pair, whatever the pool that you see on Uniswap exchange website, basically you have to make a decision on which pool you want to enter, anticipating to generate the most fees. Meanwhile, you have to keep in mind that you should come out at the same proportions that you came in. So what does that mean is like if you're when you're coming into a pool, say like ETH and DAI pool, as I mentioned before, you have to come in with ETH and an equivalent worth of DAI. So essentially, you're coming in, say, with one ETH and $190, 190 DAI.
Hmm.
So when you, if say price starts moving, your proportions in your liquidity pool will start fluctuating. So if ETH becomes more expensive, basically there's going to be less ETH in your pool and more DAI as people will try to buy it, basically.
So, for example, if I think that something like synthetics hasn't got a lot of trading volume at the moment, but it's going to be very popular going forward, I could contribute liquidity to that pool, and I might be the main liquidity provider. So, proportionally, I'd be earning a lot more yield compared to if I just added liquidity to maybe the ETH DAI pool, which was probably the biggest one already, and I'm just another small player that's contributing. Is that right? Or
Uh, well, you have to look at the portion of like the volume to the liquidity size. So I'm not sure. I think with the DAI pool right now, it's like 600,000 compared to like three over 3 million in volume. So
okay,
it's like a big portion of the liquidity size is being like kind of traded on a daily basis. But also like mainly like I mentioned, like when you're coming out and you're coming out at a different price, you're gonna come out with different proportions of the tokens.
yeah,
So if you're coming out, say like I mentioned, you came in with one ETH, one DAI when it was $190, and you came out when ETH was 200 something dollars, you're gonna get like a little bit less portion of the ETH in your liquidity when you're taking it out, but you will make up all those fees. So there's this thing called impairment loss, but yeah, it's definitely like a concept you have to like read about to understand. So it's not like I wouldn't like suggest like everyday investors to kind of just like jump into a pool just because they think the yield is high. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of research behind it.
fantastic. So, what are some of the more exotic opportunities? Are they grabbing from interesting projects, or yeah, what are some of the coolest apps you've seen?
I mean, yeah, the most popular one, as you could see from the website, we kind of if you go on the Explore Zaps page, has been like the Seth pool, which basically, so say for example, this is a trading pair which is ETH to Seth. So basically, if you think about it, when you're coming into this pool, you're not losing your ETH exposure. You're always staying in ETH. Whereas other pools, you have to split your ETH into the other token. See what I'm saying? So you're
Yeah.
kind of diversifying your investment, sorry to say, and hedging when you're coming into other pools. So with Seth, it's you're getting the liquidity, sorry, the trading fees that are being generated. Also, what the synthetics team is doing is they're incentivizing people to pool over here. So if you pool, I think it's for longer than a week. With more liquidity than one ETH and one Seth, they're actually giving you SNX rewards to your wallet. Yeah.
So yeah, for people at home, Seth is the synthetics ETH in the synthetics pool, so you're earning the rewards there as well as earning the Uniswap liquidity rewards.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. So further on the roadmap, what is this going to allow for? Because at the moment, I know a lot of people at home are going to be thinking this is really technical. They kind of get it, but in the world of finance, when we think about Wall Street and trading, this is obviously really disruptive, and it's allowing for far cooler things than what we can do at the moment with stocks. And I know this was the promise many years ago. I'm not sure if you remember Reggie Middleton and Veritasium, the project that got shut down a year or two ago. This was the kind of stuff that he was promising 5 years ago, and I thought this is going to be awesome. We can swap one synthetic asset for another, and this, that, and the other. But that's getting sidetracked a little bit. So yeah, what excites you, and what do you see further on that this is going to allow to do for Ethereum DeFi, but for the world of finance?
Yeah, for in terms of like short, I mean, like you mean like really long term or
Oh,
like in terms of like
anything.
for DeFi app or okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, in my view, like all of these DeFi protocols by themselves, they're amazing projects, right? Like automated market making, interest rates that are, algorithmically derived interest rates on Compound, like CDPs from Maker. I mean, these are all amazing projects that are focusing in kind of like a specific niche use case, right? So together, I feel like they could create something like really magical. So I think the composability factor hasn't been explored as much. There's a lot of unexplored opportunities there, and which could create a lot of cool new use cases. So I think that's where I think we should make a difference. We shouldn't be trying to replicate exactly what's going on right now in traditional finance space and just like pasting it over to DeFi. There should be some really new, novel new use cases, which I'm pretty excited about. To allow people to create with Zaps.
Yeah, for me personally, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. For me personally, we discovered DX pretty early on, and I think it's those sort of projects, decentralized derivatives, and then synthetics came along. We loved that as soon as I heard about it, and I think in the next 12 months, I hope we see synthetic, Apple stock, synthetic Tesla. Tesla's at time of recording just going parabolic. I'd love to be able to short that in a sort of decentralized fashion straight from my hardware wallet, and then we've got decentralized options that I think are coming as well. So, are you looking to? Do you think there's some really cool possibilities there, incorporating those into the world of Zaps, or is that just something that's a bit broader?
Absolutely, yeah. I actually been writing like a draft white paper for options before like starting DefiZap myself. So I'm very familiar with option contracts. I think yeah, like it's yeah. I can't wait actually, and also like something like insurance. Yeah, like there's a lot of things on the roadmap that I'm pretty excited about with for like the Zaps. Yeah, like definitely. Uh,
Have you heard of Nexus Mutual? I had them on the channel the other
yeah,
day, and they are probably one of my top picks for this year going forward.
that's what we're working with. That's what we're working with. Yeah, I'm very familiar with you. We've been getting on a lot of calls, and basically, what we're gonna do is think of it as like we're buying prepaid insurance from Nexus, and then like basically like splitting it up through these Zaps, basically. So when you're getting in the Zap, you can like kind of check off, and if you want like insurance coverage while you're doing this transaction, and for all the underlying protocols that you're gonna access through this Zap. So yeah, that should be pretty cool because we've seen some pretty large transactions going through. So I would assume like that would provide like a veil of safety for those users.
Yeah, and for people at home, that's Nexus Mutual, which is different to a project called Nexus, which we've also covered at home. But I recommend you go back and watch the interview we did with Hugh from Nexus Mutual because that is seriously one of my favorite projects. Um, Options, you mentioned your white paper. I remember also reading a white paper about someone that was working on options in the Ethereum space. I can't remember the name of the project now. Is there anyone that you've seen that's doing this, or is it still some just like pre-concept stuff?
No, yeah, I seen someone doing this actually. I think it was convexivity or something.
Yeah, no, that rings a bell. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, that rings a bell. Right? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a founder from Open. Um,
Okay.
I might be mistaken though. Yeah. So.
Fantastic. Anything else that we haven't touched on so far? You mentioned the zap in and zap out. We've seen so many, I guess, forward facing platforms just in the past few months that have made this really easy for people, tying it all together, their loans and their positions and now their zaps. Now you've got your zap in and out. So, yeah, your thoughts around all that?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna continue this experience around pooling. I think like definitely a lot of people are interested in that. So like something where one click, pool bridging, where you can swap between pools in one click. I think that's gonna be pretty exciting as you are like watching pools, scanning pools for where's most activity, kind of to say, and basically switching between pool to pool, trying to get the best yield.
And in terms of scaling, we spoke about before how we are getting it down to one on chain transaction. Is there hope that some of these, I'm just trying to think of, the loop rings and the plasmas, and are we going to move to a second sort of layer to get this down to, an atomic sort of transaction rather than on chain transaction further down the line? Is that the hope?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's something we're watching very close. Yeah, like definitely like including like meta transactions where like kind of uh, gasless entry points for users. So yeah, yeah, it's something we're very excited about. And in terms of just like I guess like spreading the word, like we're doing a lot of integrations with pretty cool wallets like Frontier Wallet and something like Pools.fyi, which measures your ROI.
Yeah.
They it's like it's easy to enable Zaps, and at the same time, again, they're not like adding on an extra layer of security risk for the end users when people are integrating them. So it's been
And
pretty exciting watching that.
you mentioned that we've covered Ethereum name service a couple of times on the channel. You mentioned that before. So if people have their wallet, and these wallets are getting so more friendly to use, and in the future, if you want to take that position, it has a name, so it might be called, the Ethereum Uniswap DAI pair, and from your wallet you can type that name rather than pasting that long address. So yeah, for the beginners at home, I'm just trying to tie all these concepts together. We've been talking about all these technical projects for a year or two, and I think people are now starting to get excited that, wow, the DeFi Legos, as they call them, they're all building on each other and coming together. So is that exciting for you? Just seeing it even from 2017 to now all come together?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I myself have, like I've been watching this space, ever since I saw that video from mining,
Yeah.
and I've been kind of trying to see where I could kind of contribute, where I can either join the team or start something that helps excel this process. So like even last summer, like I started making DeFi tutorials, like on DeFiTutorials.com, which is like kind of easy walkthroughs of through a bunch of these products, including synthetics, including Uniswap. So like I didn't have like an intention of starting DefiZap when I started making those tutorials. I literally started making them because even like my own best friend, who's an engineer at Betterment, he had his doubts about like putting money into DeFi. So I wanted to make like kind of these test drive tutorials to help people get into the space. So yeah.
It's funny you say that. When I did a video called Top 10 sort of DeFi protocols, and a big chunk of that video was explaining the difference between a scam and a pyramid scheme, and these projects that are promising 8% a month and saying that 8% a year by lending to traders into DeFi. It's a very different topic, but people just don't understand that from the outside looking into it.
Exactly, exactly. A lot of people got bit by the old scams, so now it's harder to convince them to come back because now it's like, automatic opinion for them. It's like if it's a scam. So I
And
understand.
for me personally, coming from that options and trading background, I guess I have some great ideas, but I just can't execute them. I'm not a coder. So what was your background there? You must be pretty switched on to have these ideas and then just say, oh, I'm just going to start playing around and actually developing this, or is that more of you've got a good technical team around you, or a bit of both?
It's definitely a bit of both, yeah. So, like I said, like I started making those tutorials, and then I kind of in one weekend hacked up this DeFi strategies website. It's using kind of no code. So, I mean, I'm basically like you could say a financial engineer. So, in terms of smart contract code, I help out Depesh, who's our like main smart contract guy. So the way I met him was literally, it was Kyber's hackathon was going on,
Yeah.
and I was just reached out on Discord looking for help, and he turned out to have a CPA background as well, like accounting background. So we immediately clicked and started working together. So yeah, we've been like banging things out, and in terms of the front end, that's where Sahil is helping us out.
In terms of just jumping around a little bit here, in terms of Wall Street, I read an article the other day, and I'm not sure if you were doing a lot of work back in the GFC when we had the CLOs, and now we've got the CDOs and these loan obligations, and they're packaged up. This is like the complete opposite end of the spectrum to something like DeFi, where it's all on chain and transparent, and we can see who owns what, and that it's all backed up. Do you have any thoughts around that and worries around what's going on with the financial system and these derivatives, which we just don't have transparency around, and a lot of that leverage is there and it's not maybe backed up by anything?
Yeah, exactly. So like I guess it's like a two-edged sword. So like right now a lot of people are saying like, oh, all of these loans in DeFi, they're like over collateralized loans, and it's all about under collateralized loans, right? In the finance space. So in general, I think the traditional finance space, because of its like kind of closed in loops and a lot of human interactions in those loops, I think it's definitely something that needs to be, updated, and I think we have a perfect system for that with DeFi. So yeah, that's much more efficient system for
Yeah.
everything.
I'm not sure if you've heard a little Aussie project called Maple Finance, but there's lots of lots of
Yes.
projects now that are trying to tackle that under collateralized loans for people at home. Again, if you want to borrow $100, you don't want to have to put up $500 to do that in an ideal world. You can build reputation and get that amount down. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And as the DAI, obviously liquidity spreads throughout the space. Like I think there's going to be around like 1 billion in DAI in circulation by the end of the year.
And
Uh,
for people at home that say, I think a lot of you guys are just the quiet hard workers in the background, and now we're starting to see these projects get a bit more attention. For people at home that say, Ethereum's dead, what are your thoughts around that? We're just watching the space explode, Cambrian explosion of DeFi Legos lately.
I mean, it's most of those people for sure, like obviously are not building on a day-to-day basis and are not watching who is building on a day-to-day basis. So like a lot of I have a lot of conversations with a lot of builders in the space. Yeah, it's pretty exciting um, watching some of these projects getting built out. So I mean, to say to them, I mean, they should definitely do more research, I guess. I don't know.
And the move to Ethereum 2.0 is probably one of the reasons that I feel that there's been a little bit of a lag in price and excitement, and there's just a bit of, can they pull it off? A lot of these finance applications are going to be fine to run on the Ethereum 1.0, 1.x, whatever we want to call that. You mentioned before possibly getting even to these meta transactions and second layer solutions, so it doesn't have to scale that much. Are you confident that we can still have a lot happening, and are you confident in the switch to Ethereum 2.0?
Absolutely. So first of all, in terms of like the scalability, I think a lot of projects are kind of like hiding behind this veil of scalability. Like it's a good problem to have. And first, you need to kind of get the users right to actually get to a point where, you know, in the DeFi space, I'm talking about to where you're kind of like stress testing the system. So it's definitely, I think, something that we need to work on first, and then scalability will definitely come with that. There's a lot of solutions that are being worked in the background that, yeah, definitely confident in terms of them coming to fruition.
Awesome. Any favorite projects of yours, or even just some concepts? We mentioned options before. I think we're both pretty excited about that, but no one really saw the ICO boom coming as a big use case. But now finance has made itself pretty apparent. I think insurance is something that even Vitalik's spoken about. But what are the concepts or the projects that are exciting you?
I mean, definitely the automated market making concepts. So, like the couple of projects that are going to be launching, like Balancer. Have you heard of Balancer project? Yeah.
Only by name, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's something where, like where in Uniswap you have to come in with the kind of 50-50 ratios. There, they're coming where you can kind of have more weight on the one asset as opposed to another,
Yeah.
and they can provide liquidity that way. So, I mean, these kinds of opportunities, I think, will kind of uh, really explode. Also, a lot of people launching kind of products and markets on Uniswap itself. So Uniswap, if you notice, they have over 2,000 exchanges now because you can like easily launch an exchange there.
Mm.
And there's like I think like per week now like 200 launching, 200 new exchanges created, and
Yeah.
it's all the people like tokenizing their time, creating a token, yeah, creating liquidity for their like kind of thing that they're doing in the space, whether it's designing or consulting or another thing. Yeah.
And the theory that the ETH is that underlying economic bandwidth. So if we have these thousands or millions of little areas that are all tokenized, do you think that protocol still accrues value at the end of the day? There's going to be a lot of lockup for ETH, whether it's from staking in 2.0, or do you think the demand accrues to ETH or it accrues to these individual applications and projects?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it all trickles down, I think, to ETH being the kind of like the settlement layer for everything. So absolutely, it's something that's gonna be accruing value. Yeah, from all
Fantastic.
sides.
Well, no, that's been a pretty punchy half an hour. A little bit technical, but I think it's just so exciting for someone like myself that loves finance and Ethereum and everything that's happening. Anything we haven't spoken about today, or any final words for people at home?
Well, definitely excited. Like I said earlier, we launched the Zap outs, kind of providing this full experience of coming in and out of pools if you want to in one token. So, making that experience easy. We've had a lot of kind of questions when people came into pools like, "Oh, where's my like where's my liquidity going? How do I? It's pretty complicated to take it out of Uniswap UI itself. So hopefully that will bring some value to the community and to the end users. And I'm really excited to continue kind of pushing on all fronts to make really make composability, accelerate composability throughout the space.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do a video and just go through all these DeFi projects and show people the interfaces. I will put the links down below for you guys to check it out yourselves. But having a walkthrough of some of these projects and the interfaces is very exciting. So thanks so much for joining us, Nodar, and good luck with everything. I'm sure we'll have to have you back on again in future.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Same here, and let me know if you have any questions. Would love to help out anytime.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.